Hey everyone, so in today's video we're going to have a look at another style of drawing. So we've covered the typical freehand sketching side of things where you look at isometric drawing and 2-point perspective drawing. So we're going to look at more technical side of drawing now, and we're going to look at orthographic projection. So it has a couple of different names. Sometimes it's called a working drawing, or sometimes it's called a technical drawing as well. But then there are some slight differences which we'll go over, but typically they're all laid out pretty much the same way. So orthographic drawings are used when developing a design to help figure out all the measurements and sizes for your material. So typically this will be done once all developments are finalized, you've done all your 3D modeling, you've done all your sketching, and you know what you're going to do, and this is essentially what you'll go with in the workshop to start manufacturing your final piece. So what you have to do when it comes to your coursebook is once you've done each developed design, you have to do an orthographic drawing for each one. So it's important you understand what goes into it. So this is one typically I just did of a phone. The whole reason I did a phone is you've all got phones, you know what they look like, you know how simple they are. It's just to show you what goes into it. So what you look at here, first of all, I've intentionally left my construction lines in place. So the first thing you do next is everything is in line. Okay, everything lines up perfectly. So the tops line up together, the bottoms line up together, the sides line up, side lines up. You also notice that the gap between each one of these is the same. Okay, so all of these gaps between each of these sides are all exactly the same as well. So it is important when you're doing it, you plan out the sketch first. Don't just start drawing it without planning your page out. Typically that means that when you're doing your sketch, you will have to scale down your design. I mean, obviously if you're someone that's got a keen interest in architecture, you have to scale it down absolutely anyway. But even if you're doing like a product, it's normally a handheld product, you'll probably will need to scale down your sketches as well. So obviously looking at this, the vast majority of it is in 2D. Okay, so it's all these views are in 2D, but typically there will be a 3D sketch, normally at the bottom right corner or the top right corner, just to show you what the 3D sketch will look like as well. It also has all the measurements. Now I've not put measurements on here on purpose because it will start to make it a little bit too messy, but everywhere that I have got arrows for all features, as you can see going along, each one of those arrows would have measurements on there. Now obviously being in England and using the metric system, we would have it in millimeters. So those are the key features that you would find with your orthographic. So it's on 2D, it's showing all sides. So typically what it'll do is it'll show front, side, back, side, top and bottom, and it needs to be in those orders as well. Certain technical drawings which I'm going to show you now might not show all of the different sides because they're only focusing on a specific part of the design, but typically that's what you're expected to show once you've finalized each of your designs. Okay, because it should show you've figured out, okay, this is the design, now here are all the measurements, here are all the key features, here's how it all goes together. So I'm just going to show you now a couple of examples. So first of all, we've got one here, a bike. So obviously this is only showing you a section of the drawing because otherwise it would be too big. So as you can see, they've got side, front and side of it. So again, you can see that everything does line up. Handlebars line up, wheels line up, the pedals all line up as well. They've got all the key measurements on there, and it's all 2D. The temptation sometimes can be people are so used to drawing in 3D, they try and make it have a little bit of a 3D effect, but it should always be in 2D. Again, so I didn't talk about this on my one because there was no angles on there. But what you'll see is if you've got any framing or anything and there needs to be angles involved in it, you would have those as well. So here we have another one which is just a piece of housing plate. So you can see they've got their 3D sketch here, and then they've got their front, side, back and top. So this is laid out a little bit differently. So for us normally you'd have your front, side, back, side. They've got front, side and back. So this obviously is more engineering aimed. And then what we've got here again is an assembly drawing, which is another name for it as well. So this is the tailstock if you ever used a lathe before. So this is just showing the elements that they needed for this particular design. So they've got the top, side and front. Now the only thing they've done differently is rather than have all the labels coming off exactly, they've numbered them, and then down the right hand side here they have a key, so they can do all their labeling down the right hand side instead, which is absolutely fine. But you notice as well what they've got there is they've got the scale. So they've said how big, so obviously this isn't full size, so the measurements they'd have on there would be, okay, so now basically measurements times those by 5, and then you'd get the real parts. Now these ones you've seen here have obviously been done on CAD software, and we are going to cover CAD drawing as well, but at the minute you need to be able to do it by hand first to understand the basics of it. But once we go into CAD as well, once you get good at CAD, once you've drawn the 3D software, you'll find that a lot of them will let you do the orthographic drawing very, very quickly. So that's why it's important to be able to be willing to practice with your CAD, because it can make your life a lot easier in the future. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my sketchbook out, and I'm going to just demo doing quickly an orthographic drawing for you.
Okay, so I've got my sketchbook ready, so we're going to just do quickly a little orthographic demonstration. So obviously for the past few sketches I've been just doing my phone, which is quite a simple one, because there's really not much to it. It's quite a simple shape and there's a few features to add in. But I figured what I'll do is I'll just grab another object that I've got, just so you can see it with a different type of object. Now, he said before that they're all laid out the same, so essentially you would have front, side, back, side, top and bottom, and that's normally how you would lay out your page. Now obviously with certain objects you can't draw it full size, so if I took my phone for example, it's not going to fit on the whole page if I did it full size, so you would have to do it say a third of the size or a half of the size. So that's why first of all it's important to plan out your drawing before you just start drawing, because if you start drawing and you run out of space, you're going to have to start again. So I'm just going to draw a pair of nail clippers, just because it's got a little bit more difference to it from different sides. Okay, so I'm going to start front here and go side, back, side, top and bottom. So the first one, the reason why I always say do the front first is because then you can start to map out everything that goes along with it. So obviously now we're going to start measuring everything first. So if I go quiet, it's because I am starting to measure out everything. So it does take a bit of time to get everything right. So it's important to remember as well that everything is done in 2D, not 3D. Because the temptation sometimes for people is to do it in 3D, because you're just used to 3D sketching, when really in 2D you actually do see a little bit less than you think you see. So I'm going to keep all my construction lines in, just so you can see my thought process. So at the minute I've just drawn out the front piece. It's a bit hard to see, and if I can, does that work any better? Yeah, let's try that. There you go, that works a little bit better. So you can see essentially I'm looking at it, so I've just drawn the edges off, and you can see another little line that goes across there. like that, but you can't really see anything else in it. So now I'm going to draw at the side. Now remember we said that everything is in line, so now is where we're going to start to draw all our construction lines. Now I'm going to do it nice and faintly, going straight across the page, because all of this will help us later, and then obviously we'll go over it with fine liner pen later, but because we're doing it in 2D, we're not going to bother with the thick and thin lines, so like the spider rule. We're just going to do a fine liner over all of the lines just to make them stand out in more detail. So all of those lines are going to help me in a second, so I'm going to take a look at our sketch. So I'm going to measure it out. Now typically I'm going to say leave a gap of about 20 mil. So the gap between each sketch is always going to be the same. Now I'm freehanding at the minute, because the whole reason why I'm freehanding at the minute is to get the overall shape right, and then once I'm done I will then go over with a ruler and then finalise the rest of the details with a ruler. But for the minute, while I'm just getting the gist of everything, I'm just going to freehand first. Obviously if something is straight edge completely all the way through, it's a little bit easier to keep that way. So what I'm doing, so for example I'm drawing this pin that goes through the middle, and obviously the pin is there as well, so I know it's got to be lined up because it ends there. And then of course I know that the teeth end there as well, and the teeth end there, so that is ideal. So once you find you start to draw one side, it makes it a little bit easier. Start drawing everything together. So at the minute you can see I've got the shape, so I'm a little bit off here actually, so if I tidy that up. And at the top I'm going to line up, again I've got the pins here that I know lines up, so I can put that in place there. So you see I've done the side, so you can see I've now got front and side. So what I'm going to do, so you can just check, for example I've got pins lined up there, pins lined up all the way through, the blades all line up with each other as well. And just because I don't want the video to go too long, I'm just going to do front, side, back, and then I'll do top and bottom as well. So obviously the back is a little bit simpler. So I said I left how big a gap? I left a 20 mil gap. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to do a 20 mil gap there, so I know that those gaps are the same. and then I'm going to make sure that the back meets in the same place. I know, so I said how thick was it there? It was 15mm, so I know again it's going to be 15mm there. So if you're doing certain views, and obviously because it's 2D, sometimes it can look a little bit weird. So that, you think, oh, okay, that looks quite weird. But if you look at it, you're not really seeing a lot. You just see a line. So if you can see it straight up from there, move my finger out of the way. If you're looking at it straight on 2D, you just see a line slope go up and then a little bit of the pin. So you don't see as much as you think you actually see. So obviously then what would happen is I've left just enough room because I am amazing. Or lucky, one of the two. So I'll just have enough room there. So we go front, side, back, side, like that. So I'll then have a go at doing the top and bottom. So again, same gap. So it'll be 20mm gap. There. And 20mm gap. There. So then just do some construction lines so I know everything's going to be in line. So it would be like that. I've left just enough room. My lucky day. And then I will do the bottom. Again, this is the perfect size. I've just about done it. And the whole reason why you do all these different views is because there'll be features on certain sizes, on certain sides, sorry, that you wouldn't see otherwise. So that's why it's important to have every single view possible. So there I've got front, side, back, top, bottom. So I will do the other side just so it's a completed one. So it's pretty much going to be the same one as that, just flipped over on the other side. So the fact that I've got it drawn already makes my life quite a bit easier. So I said that should be obviously these lines do need tidying up afterwards. Okay, so quickly done, roughly done, but you can see the key features that we've got there. I will go around with my fine liner pen and tidy that up so you can have a look at it when it's done, but I won't do that in video form. I'll just put a picture up at the end. But you can see I've got my front, side, back, side, my top and my bottom. You'll see that the gap between each view is always the same, and you'll see that the reason I've still got all these construction lines there is you can see that everything lines up. And the whole reason why I chose nail clippers, one, they'll sit on my desk, and two, get bored drawing a phone all the time. Three, it's something, obviously phones are dead easy, it's all straight lines, so yeah, draw whatever you've got in front of you. Don't just, if you're just doing phones all the time, just start grabbing random things that are in front of you to try and sketch out. But as you can see, I've just made that fit on my page perfectly. Make sure you plan your sketch out first, so you know it's going to fit on. What you can't do is have two views on one piece of paper and another view on another piece of paper, because that won't work. So make sure you've got it all laid out, you've mapped it all out properly, and then give it a go. Make sure you've got sharp pencil, make sure you got your ruler, and then we'll go a fine liner around it as well. But yeah, just takes practice. If you've got any questions, just send me an email.